was just another regular evening. The house was quiet, too quiet for my taste. I had always found comfort in noise, music, television, the chatter of people. But tonight, I was alone. My parents had gone out for the weekend, leaving me with the house to myself. I was 19, old enough to be trusted with the responsibility. Or so they thought. I was fine with it. I'd spent plenty of time alone before, but this time felt different. I couldn't quite place why, but there was an unsettling stillness in the air, a heaviness that clung to everything. It started as a typical evening. I settled onto the couch, grabbed some snacks, and began scrolling through my phone. My phone buzzed with notifications, and I absent-mindedly flicked through them. Nothing particularly important, just the usual. But then, as I scrolled, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't the notifications that made me uneasy. It was a noise. Faint at first, like something scratching against the walls. I paused, holding my breath, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. The house was dark with only the faint glow of the television illuminating the room. I looked around, but everything seemed normal. I stood up and walked toward the hallway. The noise stopped. My heart rate slowed, but that feeling of unease didn't leave. I shrugged it off as the house settling, or maybe just a rat in the walls. I returned to the couch, trying to ignore the sensation of being watched. I dismissed it as paranoia. But then I heard it again. This time it was louder, closer. I froze, listening intently. The scratching sound was unmistakable, but it wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the direction of the basement door. I stood up, my feet cold against the hardwood floor. The basement was always a source of unease for me, ever since I was a child. The air in the basement was damp and musty, filled with the smell of old furniture and forgotten things. It was the kind of place you didn't want to go alone, especially when the house was silent, as it was now. But something in my gut told me I needed to investigate. With every step I took toward the basement door, the scratching grew louder. It almost sounded like something was trying to break through the door. My heart was pounding now, but my curiosity overpowered my fear. I reached for the handle and slowly turned it, the door creaking open. At first I saw nothing but the darkness of the basement. The flickering light bulb overhead did little to dispel the shadows. I hesitated at the top of the stairs, unsure of whether I should go down. The scratching had stopped, but a low, guttural sound now filled the silence. It was like something breathing heavily from below. I took a deep breath and descended the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the quiet house. I reached the bottom and flicked the light switch, but the bulb flickered and died, leaving me in complete darkness. The hairs on my arms stood on end. Something felt wrong. I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight, casting a weak beam of light around the basement. The air was thick with dust, and there was a strange metallic smell in the air, almost like blood. My phone light revealed nothing out of the ordinary, just old boxes, shelves, and discarded furniture. But there, in the far corner, something moved. I froze, my blood running cold. It was quick, too quick. I couldn't make out what it was, but it was unmistakable. It was a shape moving in the shadows, darting from one corner to the next. I slowly backed up toward the stairs, my breath shallow. My heart hammered in my chest, and every instinct told me to run. But I couldn't. Something held me in place, something stronger than fear. I stared into the darkness, willing my eyes to adjust, to reveal the creature that lurked there. Then just as quickly as it had appeared, the shape disappeared, vanishing into the shadows. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and ran up the stairs, slamming the basement door shut behind me. My chest heaved as I locked the door, the sound of my heartbeat deafening in my ears. I didn't know what I had just seen, or if I had seen anything at all. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it, but I couldn't. I was alone in the house, and something was down there in the dark. Something that shouldn't be. I retreated to the living room, trying to calm myself. I checked my phone again, but there were no new messages, no calls. The silence was suffocating, and I felt as though I was being suffocated by the very walls of the house. The scratching, the breathing, the figure. Was it real, or had I imagined it? I didn't know. I sat on the couch, hugging my knees to my chest, the TV now providing the only light. The minutes dragged on, the sound of my breath the only thing I could hear. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from my friend, Emily. "Hey, how's it going? You okay?" I stared at the message for a moment, the weight of it sinking in. I typed back, "Just a weird noise, nothing serious." I didn't want to tell her the truth. I didn't want anyone to think I was crazy. I was alone in a house that felt more like a prison than a home, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to face whatever was in the basement. I checked the time, 11:30 p.m. It had only been an hour since my parents left, but it felt like days. I couldn't stay here anymore. I needed to leave. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the front door. But as my hand touched the doorknob, I heard it again. The scratching. Only this time, it wasn't from the basement. It was coming from upstairs. My breath caught in my throat as I looked toward the staircase. The scratching grew louder, almost like nails on a chalkboard. Then a low growl. I slowly turned, my heart sinking as I realized what I had to do. I had to go upstairs. I had to face whatever was waiting for me. I moved toward the stairs, my legs shaking beneath me. Every step I took felt like an eternity. The scratching was growing louder, and I could feel something in the air, something heavy, oppressive, like the weight of 1,000 eyes watching me. I reached the top of the stairs, my phone's flashlight trembling in my hand. I scanned the hallway, but there was nothing there. I slowly made my way toward my parents' bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and the scratching seemed to be coming from inside. I reached out and pushed the door open. The room was dark, but the light from my phone illuminated something that made my blood run cold. There in the corner of the room was a creature. It wasn't human, not by any stretch of the imagination. It had pale, mottled skin that seemed to stretch and sag unnaturally. Its eyes were wide and glossy, reflecting the light like black mirrors. Its mouth was a jagged mess of teeth, far too many for a creature of its size. It was crouched in the corner, watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I didn't know what to do. My mind was frozen, my body paralyzed with fear. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The creature slowly tilted its head to one side, almost as if it were studying me. Then, without warning, it lunged. I screamed and ran, bolting out of the room and down the stairs. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. I rushed out of the house and into the street, my heart racing in my chest. I didn't stop running until I reached Emily's house. I banged on the door, frantic, and when she opened it, I collapsed into her arms, gasping for breath. I didn't go back to that house. I don't know what it was or why it was there, but I can still feel its eyes on me watching, waiting. Sometimes in the quiet of the night, I still hear the scratching. And I know deep down that the creature is still there, lurking in the dark.